Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Decentralized Chain. I have got the one and only Richard Parris with me here. Been trying to hunt him down for the last couple of months, but we're ready. We're ready for the April update. Richard, how have you been? Great to have you here, as always.
Yeah, really good. Always good to be here, even if after too long a break. But yeah, it's cooling down here in the Southern Hemisphere, so coming into winter.
Well, things are going to be hotting up in this conversation we're about to have. So let's kick off, Richard. I know we've got a ton of stuff to get through. Which is great. So let's start off with WASM. How's all the WASM stuff going within the browser?
So WASM is WebAssembly. And for the people who've been keeping track of the project, basically they'll know we brought Rust nodes, so the Rust implementation of the Saito protocol onto, and sort of, we're connecting them up to the network, etc. In the last couple of months. And what we've done with WASM is WebAssembly is a way of taking a language like Rust, which is really high capacity, multi-threaded, all the things you want for a big, really capable, blockchain node, to take that same code and package it into something you can put and run in a browser. So instead of the kind of native JavaScript language you have in a browser, which is quick, thanks Google, but it's quick, but it's not really, really high capacity. And it's, so you can swap that out with Rust, which is the same thing we're going to use as our industrial hardened core, and put that in place. So we're kind of testing out that the small tweaks and changes we needed to put in place to do that conversion are working. Aiming at, I think, sort of in the next few weeks to swap out what people have been enjoying and running on the browser with this new heart, this new engine. And that's sort of a core step towards, kind of moving forwards to, the sort of scale we talk about, the robustness we talk about and we want to achieve. And also for people to be able to run really high capacity applications that connect the Saito way from their browser, or in fact from any software stack as we move down the road. So it's a pretty exciting time, technically fiddly, but nothing that's sort of, too difficult, but there's a lot of work to be done, just tying everything together, but moving along well.
Excellent. Well, always building and always moving forward. Now, talking about moving forward, interestingly enough, for everyone that is actually viewing this stream right now, we are not using Zoom. We are not using any type of video software that you can find out there on the open market. In fact, what me and Richard are talking on is on Saito video chat. And I think what I will say, certainly as a content creator, is I am absolutely blown away by what's happening right now. I mean, here we're using, decentralized video chat solution, no middleman, no subscription, no timer in the corner to tell me that I've only got 20 minutes left. And Richard needs to hurry up and stop explaining things to me before we run out and I have to cut and edit something else in. No, this is, I think is an absolute game changer for me. And this is something that I'm going to be using with all other projects going forward, certainly when I have interviews. But let's talk a bit about this, Richard, because I think this is really key.
Yeah, so people sometimes ask why the focus on games, etc. And we picked up games as a way of testing out and developing some of the peer-to-peer things we wanted to do. And this is an example of a very different kind of application that you can also free up from the kind of stranglehold you have in your classic Web 2 business model, and show people what the internet can really be about. And this conversation is happening between you and over in the Northern Hemisphere and me over here in Australia, over an encrypted channel between the two of us directly, which is built a feature that's built into browsers. But the question is, how do you connect that up? Right? How do we get this to happen? And the classic, obviously, business model is, well, you get people to subscribe to a service and you lock up a box that just tells them where each other are, basically helps them connect via some central point. We're using nodes on the Saito network and the chain to be able to have people do that without anyone's permission. You can just send someone a message on the train and instigate this. We speed it up with various relays and things to make it super fast and snappy. But the whole point is it's a custodial in the sense of no one's got your password, no one can tell you how long your session's going to be, etc. And you just see that both in terms of, well, it's simple and quick to start technically, but also you're not like giving people permission or asking an app to give you a one-off link, etc. It's just there. You just copy the link and paste it into whatever you like, and off you go. So we've basically tossed anything else for our internal meetings. We're starting to be brave enough to say on a public thing like this, let's use this platform. We love people to come and try and look, please keep trying it until you break it. Find something it doesn't have that you want, a feature or something, and tell us, because we think there's a really huge potential here with like video chat / Twitch for live streaming, or all sorts of things that you'll be able to do peer-to-peer without having to rely on YouTube's graces to let you do that. So if people want to add recording and stuff, we'd love to hear from the community about how they want to use it, as well as just letting people use it for straight up calls. I mean, we've already integrated into the games, right? So you can talk to your opponents inside a game. That just shows what crazy potential there is for that across the suite of applications that aren't walled gardens with permissions around them. So really exciting times, enjoying using it. We enjoy using it every day.
No, I'm loving it. I think one of the main things is, and I can see it on my screen, everything's crystal clear. There's no buffering, there's no slowness, there's none of this whatsoever, actually. So I love it, and it will be my default video chat solution going forward, actually.
Absolutely. So yeah, if anyone wants to use it, just head over to Red Square or Saito.io and just like click in the hamburger menu, and there's your video call. Just start it.
It's as easy as that. Now, talking about easy as that, my Twitter feeds, I tend to see pretty much every day there is something about Saito, which people ask and say, what's happening with marketing? Your marketing has been absolutely blowing up lately. I mean, what is happening there?
I think it's having stuck to some good principles about how we want to go about it, making sure we have real content that's solidly thought through, and then working hard with community to help them participate in that process, because they're the ones that are giving it both the volume, just the amount, but also the character and the interest, right? It's very hard from my chair to make Saito fresh. It's something that I've worked on for a while and I enjoy it, etc. But I'm not new to it. I'm just not. So having these variety of perspectives and new people coming in, people with different understandings and takes on it, is really helping, kind of gel into, I think, much better breadth and variety of content. It's still based on fundamental core messages that are solid. It's not mindless shilling or pumping, and people respond to it. And I think that's the thing. People know it's like fast food versus a great home meal. People understand the difference at some level. Yeah. Fast food's fun, and you can have fun memeing away somewhere maybe, but it doesn't sustain. And that's the difference where we're seeing value accreting, kind of snowballing on top of other value because of this consistent push and stuff. And it's really wonderful to see. Some of the creativity and stuff is just amazing. So really happy at the moment.
And talking about pumping, for the viewers out there, if you want to pump the algorithm here to get this video to go viral, then make sure you smash the like button, drop a comment on the video.
Can I say smash the like button?
Of course you can. There's a like button.
Oh man, smash that like button. I never get to say things like that.
If you love Saito, then make sure you smash the like button. It's as simple as that. And we will pump this video out and make it viral. So we always drop a few of those in there, Richard. You
shouldn't put that. Yeah, you shouldn't put that flag in front of the red flag in front of the Saito community. They might just run with it.
So let's talk. I do get a few messages that do come to me, because obviously I love covering you. Well, let me rephrase that. I love covering Saito. So and a few things do come. When exchanges. When this, when that. So let's talk a bit about exchanges. What's happening on the exchanges front? So are you looking to sort of get on more exchanges, or what happens here?
Well, I think again, and this is consistent with what we've been saying for a long time. We're looking for deals from exchanges that we think are in the long-term interest of the project and the community. I think people would see now that we had an opportunity to spend more than 20% of all the money we've ever raised on a deal with Huobi in the middle of the last bull market. And I'm very glad. I think everyone would understand why that would have been a terrible idea, for the project long term. And so I think people aren't necessarily aware of everything that goes on in negotiating with an exchange, et cetera. And when we've said that, our project is strong enough that we will get listed essentially pro bono because people will feel ridiculous not having Saito on their exchange, those days are actually coming. And the evidence is the real, and obviously there's a huge amount of spam contact from Phil from Exchange X. The real approaches from exchanges are coming. They come in more regularly, and they're more and more the kind of deal we could look at and say, well, that's going to be in the interest of our community. But we're very reticent, to give exchanges huge Saito liquidity to play games with and to potentially dump on retail. And so that's, it requires caution and thought into what does this mean long term and what's the right deal. But I think we're seeing offers. We definitely have offers we could take, but it's a matter of like, will this long term be of an overall benefit to everyone who's already supporting us? So,
yeah, no, it's an important point that you make, because I think a lot of people, certainly on the other side, don't necessarily see how it works with exchanges, especially when it comes to listing and, getting listed and, liquidity that you need to provide up front. And to a certain extent, and I've worked with many other projects, saying when are you going to jump on an exchange isn't always the sort of golden bullet that everyone's looking for, actually, because sometimes when you do jump on an exchange, the opposite can happen quite quickly, and especially because exchanges are also there to make money. They make money. They make money on volume, and so whether the volume is in a plus or going down in a negative, there is still the exchange making money on a winning or losing trade. And a lot of people don't tend to understand that straight away. And again, I think it's one of the things that you do need to be is very mindful of jumping on exchanges. But those that do provide value, that genuinely see, what you're trying to build, they're the ones that will generally help you with also favorable terms when it comes to jumping on exchanges.
Well, I think that's the big thing, is like there's basically money on that way up and that way down. And if you look at most projects that list on exchanges, if you zoom out on that chart, it's essentially a single spike.
Exactly.
And the story of the project after that spike is very, is often very sorry. So we're very keen to do the, avoid that, do the opposite. And I'd say, it's not something that we ignore. It's something we pay close attention to because it can be very assistive, and we do want to make sure people can get their hands on Saito should they want to. But we're happy at the moment with the opportunities to do that. People have methods, and that the liquidity is effective across those, which is the main thing. So we maintain our commitment to things like Pancake and the key supported Uniswap pairs that we're supporting those. We make sure they have sufficient liquidity, and they ensure that people can purchase the Saito that they need on in a reasonable way for a reasonable fee pattern, etc. And that's something we're keen to make sure is available for the community, and that's our primary goal with exchanges, as that form of outreach and that form of service to the community. And then after that, we'll have to have a look at what else they could provide to justify the fees or whatever else comes in the contract.
One of the other things I get asked about a fair bit, and some people go into full-blown debates with me, is when mainnet, Richard. So, I mean, what is the path to mainnet exactly?
Right. Well, I think it's one of those things where, being contrarian Saito people, we like to define things before we start. So, I think there's an argument. I think if you've read through and you've followed what Saito is about, there's an argument to say that Bitcoin is not yet mainnet. In the sense that it doesn't yet have a sustainable economic model. The security model with the halvening and with where fees are, means that Bitcoin has to collapse at some point. There's a good, strong argument to make that. So I think it's mainnet is a shorthand for like value on chain for some people, for permanence for other people, etc. So I think, having said that, what we are talking about is the kind of activity on that path related to that in the kind of current era of our roadmap is token persistence. And that's something that we're working toward sort of very hard, and we're looking over summer to be setting the exact date for that. And what that involves is balances being guaranteed on chain at various amounts over time, so that then when you build a business, you can actually, say, I'm going to get revenue in Saito and it will be sustained, etc. The things like what I started with today, what we started talking about today with the WASM work, that's key to this, because if you're going to have a high capacity blockchain, and remember the way Saito works, you're running a little node in your application. You're part of the network. You're not like with Ethereum, the bulk of Ethereum dApps connecting to Infura to connect to their networks. You're not connecting to a shop that's a commercial entity that's essentially volunteering hardware at the moment to connect to Ethereum. You're actually connecting directly to Saito via the software that's running in your app. So we need to get that really right and correct. That's what this WASM work is about. By the other advantage of getting the WASM packaging of the Rust node into the browser is that we don't have two code bases to maintain. And anyone who's worked in software will understand that if you're trying to maintain two implementations of a protocol with two separate software stacks, that's monstrously difficult. A lot of testing, etc. So this is speeding up that process toward being able to offer that token persistence on the network. And then from there on, it's basically just vaults of testing to make sure that everything's correct. But we've been running a network that has all the features of the network will have in perpetuity for some time. So it's not like it's a great big unknown. I think this approach is very different to the classic thing where often a smart contract project will talk about mainnet, which is just when they publish the smart contract. And so to be compared to that is kind of like, being asked to compare constructing a rocket that's designed to go and do something like the moon that hasn't been done before with preparing, constructing and assembling a hang glider.
Yeah, no, of course. No.
We're trying to build an economy on a chain that's a real economy that's not based on a Ponzi-nomics of just doling out money to the first comers, and nodes that run in your browser and massive scale with a very small team. And so we're taking our time and we're executing, I think, very, very well on that path. And the benefit is you get something that you can know what it is. It's an honest project that's building something that's that's growing and achieving things every day, rather than relying on trying to hype itself enough to win enough mind space to be able to sell tokens to people.
I think you made an important note actually earlier when you mentioned dApps, for example, when dApps officially go mainnet. Actually, you're right, because if you think about it here, it is an infrastructure we're rolling out, right? It's an actual infrastructure we're rolling out. So, when we say things like when mainnet, and this kind of goes to all the viewers that are watching, it's very different sometimes if you are, referring to, so-and-so dApp just went live, because you're right, it's a smart contract that's gone live on a particular blockchain, whether it be Ethereum or Arbitrum or Avalanche, whatever it may well be. It's quite straightforward. It's a smart contract. It's a small piece of software that is up and running for you to do something with it. Whereas here, as you stated, it is a full-blown infrastructure. It's an economy that you're rolling out. So it's a very important distinction to understand.
Well, I think, and it's very similar on the ecosystem side. There's an assumption that what you'll do is get a whole lot of money, presumably from VC, fund creation of an ecosystem that you're just going to hope people like later. Out of that existing free money for developers to come and take the money and build things, and then you're hoping that creates enough hype to make the native coin of whatever kind it is of that ecosystem worth something. We're trying to do things the other way around. It's part of taking the economics seriously, saying we need real usage and real users prepared to pay real fees to bootstrap something that then can take off like nothing else in the space, because it's self-sustaining and its success will breed more success. But that takes very cautious time to set it up and get it moving. It's like starting a fire out of wet wood. It's not a simple process, but once you get it going, it's going to be quite different to anything else that requires us all to blow on it to keep the fire going. So, Sorry, I love my analogies.
I love the analogy. I love the analogy. These are words of wisdom from Richard. So
at least I don't sound like Darth Vader, which I've been accused of all week after wheezing my way through a Twitter space.
All I want to say is thank you, Richard. As always, I love our catch-ups, and today's update has been packed full of some amazing content in there. So please do smash up the like button. Please do comment on this video. Share it with your friends and family. Tell everybody on Twitter and every other social media platform you can find. And Richard, thank you. As always, thank you for coming on the show. Super appreciate you coming on here. And